All right, thank you and good afternoon. Nice to see everybody here. We're just letting a couple more people come in here. I thought it would be great if we could just start out with some music, so here we go. Everybody knows Sean and I have been checking for like the last 20 minutes, everything, and nothing's changed, but things change anyway. I guess that's technology, isn't it? So, is the voice volume okay?
It's okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, a couple things I want to do today are some basics, because I've been noticing in working with people that some of these basics get overlooked, and they're not things that we talk about a lot. So perhaps that's why sometimes I think you forget. Um, and so I wanted to touch on that first. And the very first thing I want to talk about is setting up the instrument from left to right. Now that's a pretty big deal. I'm going to move the camera here so you can see it a little bit better.
Much
There you
better.
go.
Much better.
So you start from the left to the right. So what happens is people get ambitious and they go ahead and find the sound that they want. And then when you go back to the rhythm and you put the rhythm on, it kicks the sound out that you chose. That's why you have to go from the setup from the left to the right. Here's something else that I have seen a lot of, and like I said, we really don't talk about it, but when you turn on a style, no matter what it is, let's just go back to the country style I had, you can't just begin to play, because if you do, you haven't checked everything out. First, you have to be sure. I'm on a journey right now, an EY 320, but you have to be sure you're on the rhythm that you want, and the information screen's going to tell you that. In addition to that, you have to be able to check your tempo before you start. Otherwise, the tempo is not right. Chances are, in most cases, it's too fast. And now, once you have a tempo identified for a song, it's really good to write the tempo number in your book of whatever song you're playing, because then you can go right to that tempo and make sure it's correct. So this particular rhythm, I'm going to test it, and this is what I would do before I would start any song. I listen to it, see how fast the beat is going, And then I decide, is that a good beat for me? Now, here's the next thing that happens, especially on the EY. Whatever you have touched last is going to come up on the information screen. And right before the information screen, or underneath it rather, it says feature clear. When the feature clear light is on, you're seeing whatever you last touched, and therefore you can't see your main screen. So every time you do something, that feature of clear light is going to come on because the information screen is going to tell you what you just did. So once you've done it, you have to touch that light right here, turn it out. Now I have my home screen that tells me my tempo, my chord, my style, and my sound on the upper and the right lower split. So that feature light, and it comes on, and I've noticed many people, they don't realize that the feature light is on, and when it's on, you can't see anything else in the screen. So that is something that I wanted you to understand and know that we want to go left to right, first of all, and second of all, then we want to test the tempo, make sure the tempo is working okay. And then we want to make sure our feature clear light is turned off so that you can see the screen. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there a question?
Mercedes, you have your hand up on there. I just want to make sure we get to you. Did you have a question there? You can unmute yourself.
I had my hand up because you weren't showing the keyboard. I couldn't see Joni playing fully, but now it's been adjusted and I can see the whole keyboard.
Oh,
You
good,
do-
good. I love it when we can fix something before it even gets asked. Okay, so I'm going to go to another feature now. And the feature is really nice for when you're trying to learn a song. Because when you're trying to learn how to play a song, you're mostly concentrating on finding the notes. And you may say to yourself, I got to learn the right hand notes and I have to figure out the chords before I can put all my orchestrated background or music style, if you will, before I want to put that on. So normally, if we just turn on the easy button, it's going to sound like this. Now, when I touch a note with the easy button, I have two sounds on the lower left, if you can see where I'm pointing. Right here, my one sound is ensemble. That's the strings that hold the chord. The next sound is, it says more. That's what I call the plunker. So every time you change a chord, it's going to plunk. Can you hear that plunking? In most cases, I don't want to hear the plunker. So if I turn out my more light for the lower left sounds, now I'm just going to have a beautiful string ensemble that's very smooth. And I don't have that plunker. Does that make sense to everybody? So I've turned off my plunker, and I'm going to go to Golden Harp because I'm not ready quite yet to put it with a music style. I just want to learn and get the notes. So here I am. Let's see what we have here. I want to go to symphonic, and I want to go to number 6. So now I test everything. Yep. Now the pattern I have on for the Golden Harp right now is the virtuoso pattern. You have an up, you have a down, you have an up and down. You make your choice in the screen, and once you have, remember, again, turn out that feature clear light. That's really, really important so that you can see your main screen. So now I'm ready to learn this song, and I have a little bit going on, the little background with the arpeggio, but I don't have a whole music style yet. So let's take a listen. Now let's say you decide that virtuoso is a little busy. I want something a little more mellow. So I'll go back to my golden harp button, and let's see what the up and down does. A little bit softer. Let's try the up only. That's good. That doesn't give me too much in the background. So now we'll try it again. And my feature clear light's on. So what I'm seeing in my screen right now is up only. I don't have the regular screen that gives me all my information. So I have to remember, turn that feature clear. You're constantly, on the EY products, you have to constantly be going to the feature clear button and turning it off, because it comes on every time you do something to tell you what you just did. So you always have to be revisiting that button and turning it off. So that's a great practice way of learning the song without having the whole music style background. Then, when you're comfortable with your right hand and you're comfortable with your chords, you can then put the music style to it. But that golden harp, that's a real asset for a good practice session. And I recommend that you use it a lot. We use it in the slower rhythm styles as well. It sounds very nice on top of any music style that you might use, but it's especially great if you're not ready to have all the activity in the registration background yet. Then you just have a beautiful golden harp, and that works really super. So just to recap that, we're starting from left to right, and we're putting everything on that we want to have. We make a notation in our music of what the tempo should be. Don't just take it as it comes, because like I said too many times, it is too fast, and we don't want to have that. And then if we want to learn the song, then we're going to learn it by perhaps golden harp. Instead of just the easy button's going to hum the chord. But if I have the golden harp, I have a little bit of activity, but not too much to overpower me working it. So another button I want to talk about is on the EYs is a great button. It's called a balance button, and it is on the far left, just past the graphic mixer. I'm pointing to it right here. The balance button, if you go to the right, you're raising the sound, the volume of the melody. If you go to the left, you're bringing up your accompaniment. So you can really customize it. It duals kind of equivalent to an equalizer that might be on some of the other products, because you're able to put it in balance perfectly for your ear. If you turn on the instrument, it's always going to sit right in the middle. The balance is even middle, but none of us hear the same way. And so for me and you, I recommend that you're always varying that balance button so that it's customized to your hearing personally, and you'll get the full sound that you want to have. So that balance button is pretty important to me. And it's a luxury, because there's an awful lot of instruments that don't have that feature. So if you haven't been using it before, I would encourage you to touch it and change it and see how it works for you. And the other thing that we don't talk about a whole lot either is the keyboard touch button. Used to be called dynamic keying. It is not any longer. The language is keyboard touch. Well, that's when you hit a note harder or softer. It gets louder the harder you touch. But an awful lot of people actually wrote to Lowrey and told us that I don't like that on. I want all my notes to be the same volume, because if you don't know how to do it, sometimes you won't even hear the note you played. So we were fortunate on the Fanfare and then the Journey that we have a keyboard touch button. And so if it's on, you can turn it off, and now every note's going to be the same exact volume. So you have to decide what your preference is, but I think that most hobbyists prefer not to have the keyboard touch on. If you have experience having played the piano, then you probably like that feature. And it's especially effective when you're using brass instruments, because not all brass is going to be the same volume. So when you're using the brass, you want the keyboard touch to be on, because then you can make one brass sound be a little light and then one be a little heavier depending on your touch. So that is the keyboard touch. So I want to go on now and talk about the three performers. This is another thing that we kind of don't emphasize a whole lot anymore. We did in the beginning as virtual orchestras, but I think it gets forgotten. We have a full band performer, we have a pianist performer, and then a guitarist performer. And each of those houses different music styles. However, the pianist and the guitarist, when you turn those on, if your choice is in the pianist department or the guitarist department, and you turn that on, you have no drum volume. There's no drums on the pianist and there's no drums on the guitarist. You can have the drums, but you have to turn them up. So again, if you're choosing something, let's see what I had told myself to use. Oh yeah, let's do that, the New Orleans. If you're using one of those and you want to have the drums, let's turn the drums on and up before you start to play. Otherwise, you're going to be interrupted by the fact that you have no drums. So that's a good thing to remember about pianist and guitarist, and they're all totally different rhythm styles, which is great, and full band as well. So really the number of buttons you see per styles is not really the number you have. For instance, in the case of the Journey, I have 144 different rhythm styles because of the performers, the full band, the guitarist, and the pianist. On the Inspire, the EY400, there's 286 styles. So you have a lot more than you see buttons, but that's the concept, is don't give me too many buttons, but give me choices, and we get that from the screen. So the next feature I want to talk about, which is I'm going to use one of these performers, but I'm going to go to Feature Clear and turn the Feature Clear on. And now different things come up. The first thing that comes up is the levels, and then sustain lengths, and then orc solo octave, and then set split, AOC, edit the sounds. You have all kinds of effects here. And eventually I'm going to get to style list. Now the style list is great. That's a bonus, because sometimes you want to play a style and you forget where it is. We play so many of them, I wouldn't know in a lot of cases which button it's on. But I can go to my style list and I can select it. And now in alphabetical order, it's going to tell me the name of every single style in the instrument. And I'm going to scroll here till I get to the ends, which might take a while here. And then I'm going to go to find my New Orleans piano. There we are. We're getting there. Ah, there we are. Perfect. So New Orleans piano came up on the list, so I selected that. And I'm going to turn my feature clear light off. So now I'm back to the this main screen so I can see what I have. Oh, I didn't select it. Ugh, Joni. All right. Here we go. Select. There we go. Now we got it. So now my feature clear light's going to go out, and now I can see what my sounds are that I'm getting. And I want, let's see, I'm looking for a clarinet. So the feature that's combined, it we talk about a little bit, but I think people still are not sure how and why to use it, and that is called the Fake It button. Well, Fake It can play along with the introduction, it can play along with the ending, and it can play an interlude in the middle of the song. So I'm going to use my Fake It and turn it on, and I'm going to hold down one black key, and it is going to play the Fake It pattern with the introduction. Listen to this. And then I can start my introduction anytime I'm ready. Now I want to take a little interlude, so I'm going to turn on my Fake It. And the cool thing about that is I can have two different Fake It lines. I have a sound up here, and I have a sound on my split. If I hold a black key here and reach down here, I'm going to get two totally different lines that are playing for me. So here was the clarinet. And here's the jazz guitar. Now, the trick of it is when you're playing your piece of music and you decide to use Fake It, the only thing you have to do is look at the music and just play the left-hand chords. Because when you change the chords, that's what changes the Fake It pattern or the melody pattern, if you will. If you just stay on one chord, this is what you got. Not going to play different notes till I change my chord. Ah, now it changed. So I tell people, you know, the way to use Fake It is when you decide to turn Fake It on, just play your music. You're not playing your right hand, you're just changing the chords when they're supposed to change. And that in turn will change the pattern that's being played. And then when you're finished with it, we'll take the Fake It off and we'll resume. So let's get a little Fake It going. Okay, I'm ready to be done. Little Fake It. Now I'm going to turn on my ending. Let the Fake It play. So, and I don't know if you heard it or not, but the Fake It pattern slows down because that ending in Nolan's piano slowed down at the very end, and it's also slowed the Fake It pattern. So it's very much in sync with each other. And it's a way to have some fun, especially if someone comes over and they don't know how to play, and you say, oh, come on, you can play with me. And you turn on the Fake It and just have them hold their black keys, and away you go, and you got a great little musical pattern. Bill Curry was very, very intuitive about writing these melodic patterns to match the rhythm styles that he put in there. So it's very, very good, and it's another word for fake it is ad-libbing or improvising, and that is not an easy thing to learn to do for yourself, and you don't have to do it anymore because now there's a button. You don't have to study the music. So I'm going to take a pause right here and then see if there's any questions so far on the things I've done. I have a question for you. How many people utilize that style list? Would you say that you use it a lot? I see Phyllis rose her hand. Janice is raising a little bit of her hand. 2 fingers. That style list is a really, really valuable feature because for 2 reasons. One is it helps you find something when you don't know where it is. But the other thing is as you're scrolling through the style list, you're going to see the names of styles, and you'll see one and you'll go, oh, I haven't played with that style in a while. So it kind of jars your memory to maybe one that you've been neglecting or forgot about that you had, and that's really great. So I would encourage you to climb all over that style list and find the styles that you may have remembered or know or don't. So I'm now going to go to my Broadway, and I'm going to go to my guitarist. Now, if you recall, what I reminded you of, the guitarist has no drum volume on it. So if I start this, I'm not going to get my East Coast swing jive is actually the style that I'm going to use. I'm not going to get that. I have to go and turn up my drum volume now, which it's turned up. I'm going to turn out my feature clear, and then I'm going to find my little piano there. All right, and here we go. Does anybody know the name of that song? Anybody know the writer of that song? No? Did I stump you? Oh my goodness. It's called Couldn't Live Without Your Love, and it was a Petula Clark song. And it's just a cute little upbeat little ditty to make you start, tapping your head, tapping your foot, and it's kind of a fun thing to get started with when you're first starting to play, to kind of bring your spirits up and enjoy the music. So that's used with East Coast swing jive, and when that
rhythm style first came out, a lot of people didn't use it, and I was really curious why, and started asking people, and they said, I looked at the title and it didn't mean anything to me, so they didn't try the rhythm. So since then, we try to use it a lot and say, wow, this is a great rhythm for you, so go ahead and try it out. So now I'm going to go to my Latin guitarist, and again, I'm not going to have my drums on unless I put them on. So here I go with that. I'm going to use Trios Romanticos, which is a beautiful, beautiful Latin rhythm. And it reminds me of one specific song. We'll see if you know. What was the name of that song?
There's no tomorrow.
It's now or never.
It's Now or Never? Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. That's good. Just that rhythm just reminds me of that song all the time, so I like to play that with it. So the last thing I want to talk about is what we gained in the pedals. There was a long philosophy at Lowrey for many, many years that people don't play the pedals anyway and just ignore the pedals, don't talk about the pedals. And then as the years went by, many of us, me and my colleagues, started to say, well, why couldn't we use the pedals in a different way? Why does somebody have to learn to play the bass? Why couldn't the pedals have different functions? And this was revolutionary as far as a new beginning of people being able to use their pedals. And it's called, the pedal magic is the feature. And it's called pedal magic because it is magic. And the first one is long and short. All that means is people generally tap their foot and rock it. Let me see. Well, I guess you can't really see there, can you? But you go back and forth between a long and a short pedal, and regardless of which one you play, it will play the correct bass. It's magic. So that's the first one. The second one, if I forward it, the next one on the screen here says get close. That's for somebody who says, "Oh, I know how to play the pedals," but a lot of times they miss it by one or two. Well, if you have that on and you're moving your foot, no matter which one you go on, it'll correct it and play the correct bass. So that means you can look like you're doing a lot with your foot, but you're relying on the feature to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So that's great. But the real thing that inspired people about the fanfare and the journey was when we could get the fill on a pedal. We no longer had to use the kick switches on the inside of the expression pedal. Before, we had to kick to the right, we got to kick to the left for the glide, and consequently a lot of people just didn't really appreciate doing that. When we get to the Inspire, of course, now we have a touch bar, so it's a little bit more helpful, but we can put the fill on, which sounds great. I'll just put on my little standards here and my little guitarist. Let's see here. Oh, that's a good one. And I play my chord, step on any pedal. Now, I know the fill is working because I can see the lights lit up. And until I take my foot off, the fill will stop. Turn it on, pick my foot up, and it will stop. And that just makes it so easy because it doesn't matter what pedal you put your foot on, it's going to activate the fill. The same thing is true with the glide and sustain. And I'm going to actually talk about that in a variety class toward the end of the month. But glide, for many hobbyists, is not popular. And it's not popular for several reasons. They forget to apply it, or they don't know how to apply it, or they can never make it bend the pitch and sound correct. And there's a way to do that. But and it's because of the switch. You don't know exactly when to hit the switch, when to let go of the switch, when to let go of your hand. So it's trying to walk and chew gum at the same time might be difficult. But now we can put it on the pedal, and you touch a pedal, and when you let go of the pedal, the pitch will glide up. And that made it so that your music, and I said I'll talk about this later in a variety class, but that's going to make all your music sound more authentic because certain instruments are designed to be played with the glide. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. And is there any questions for me so far?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
When you first started today, you talked about the 3 buttons on the lower left, the one that you call Plunket the More, the ensemble. And
Yes, yes, yes.
I noticed when I go into flute and ensemble, I can scroll through and there are a lot of choices. I never know which one to select.
Well, that's a very good question. On ensemble, it says lower ensemble strings, and then it says vocals.
Right.
So you're going to make the choice. Either you take the ensemble strings, which work for everything all the time. They're very nice. But if you want to match it, let's say, to the type of music. So if it's a beautiful song you're going to play that you would picture voices singing, then I would put the lower ensemble on vocals.
Okay.
If it's some theater music that you're going to play with some organ sounds, I would definitely turn on the flutes and find out, okay, an 8-foot flute. Let me take this style off here for a minute. So right now, I'll take the ensemble off. It's giving me an 8-foot organ, which is kind of okay, but it's kind of that dull hum. Now,
Okay.
if I change it, there's my 4-foot, so it brought it up a little bit. It's a higher pitch. But then I can have a combination, and I find that if you are using some organ tones and some theater-type music, organ 8 and 4 is a great choice.
8 and 4.
Because it's a blend. It's a blend of 2, and so it's not a drone bottom hum. It's not a high top either. And then if you want to smooth it out from being that, If I add my ensemble, that's my vocals. I'll go back to my ensemble. There's my strings. Now you have a beautiful combination for your left hand sounds. And most people don't give a lot of thought to the left hand sounds because they're thinking about getting a right hand sound and the lower keyboard right split sound. But these chords, especially when you're doing some slower music, I actually did this in a styling class today and forgot to tell them to make sure they had beautiful strings on the lower left hand, the lower keyboard, because it was a beautiful slow song. The Way You Look Tonight is what we did. And it sounds great with the chords. You want to be able to hear your chords, and you can't necessarily hear them with a busy music style without having some tones to make that. So, yes, you're right about you have choices, and your choices are very good, optimal choices that you can choose, but try to think about the type of music you're playing, and also think about, you're going to use it more in ballad and slower music, but also think about, is it more string-like type music, or is it like more organ type sounds? And that will help you to make your choices. That's an excellent question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And also, I want to say thanks again. I love the idea of using Fake It with the intro and ending.
Oh, good.
That's something totally new to me. So thank you for that info.
That's really fun. That's really fun to do.
Yeah.
When you start out, when you do that with the Fake It and turn on the intro, you're already sounding like $1 million and you're not doing anything yet. I think that's so cool. Thank
Great.
you. I'm glad you liked it. Anything else? Okay, well, Sean, you have some announcements for us?
Yeah, just a couple things, and then if you'd like to play a song to close out, that would be great.
Sure.
But before we adjourn here, I'm just going to show you a couple things on the screen. I'm going to put our website. So hopefully you're all familiar with, where is it? Did it pop up on the screen for a second?
Not seeing it now.
Yeah, let me make sure. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
Okay, it did pop
So you
up.
should, there we go.
There it is.
So that is our website. So most of you, actually all of you, are familiar with it because you had to go into it to get to this class. So we kind of force you to get used to it here. Our goal here is for you to find anything you need on our website. If you go to the main page, on the bottom right of it, it actually lists every event that's coming up in order. So if you want to know what's coming up today or tomorrow or the next day, you can go through this and see every single event that we offer. If you want to see it broken up by kind of category, if you click this classes and events, this is where it takes you when you click on the link in our emails. This is our weekly class, weekly variety classes first. And then if you keep scrolling down, that's where you get these product feature classes, which are based on the particular instruments you might have. And then at the bottom, it'll list, any concerts that we have coming up and things like that. So we're just trying to get everybody used to using that more and more so we don't have to send out so many emails.
And Sean, can you go down to the very bottom where it is the location finder? Because one time I had to find a link that was being done from Sun City and I couldn't find it, and I went down there and sure enough it all came up. So individually they could see the store calendars as well.
Yeah, well, this is probably the best way. It's right on the top. It says locations. If you want to see something that's at a specific location, you can see all of our stores here. Whoops. And if something's happening in Sun City Center, or let's say Port Charlotte in
We're not
Florida,
seeing it.
you can see the events that are happening at that store. And like I said, you can also see those on our main page. If you go to the main website, just FletcherMusic.com up here at the top. If you scroll to the bottom, it'll include those as well. So it has the specific store events and, company-wide type events as well. So this is just everything all at the bottom here.
Looks like your screen share stopped working.
Oh boy. Oh well, forget it. But you know what I mean. So I'm going to send it back to Joni, and she'll do a nice tune.
Okay,
for
well,
our-
I
yeah.
hope you enjoyed those tidbits. Please keep in mind about the feature clear button. You always got to be reoccurring and going back to turning that off so you can have your whole main screen. That's a
And
really
it does look
important.
like you have one question before we close out. Phyllis?
Yes, I don't know if you want to get into this or you'll get into it later. I have the Rialto. At the back of my book is a sounds list with all these numbers on them. I'm not quite sure how to use those.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, okay, so for example, it says just for piano, piano toy, 418, piano classic, 18. And there's all kinds of numbers on different
Right.
instruments.
So you would put in the number
Like
and
the
then
keypad feature, yeah, on the touch screen.
on the touch screen, you would put in that number and then touch your sounds button and it'll automatically bring up that particular sound by number.
Oh,
It's just kind of a faster way of doing it. Like there'll be a couple sounds that you like to use frequently and you'll remember the number in your head, and then instead of having to scroll to find it, you just pop it in your keypad, touch your sounds button, and the sound will be right there for you.
oh, all right. Okay.
Oh, you have something new to play with now, don't you?
Yes, for sure. Hundreds and hundreds.
That's a great question. I'm a new Rialto owner, and I looked at that and wondered myself, and I thought, well, eventually we'll learn what it is. And so today you've taught me.
That's the keypad. Yeah, that's a very essential piece of equipment right there to help you. It just makes you find things so much easier. If you know what it's called, you look it up, you have the number, plug in the number, and away you go. And you don't have to, it takes all that scrolling stuff away. When scrolling first came out, we thought it was the best thing ever. And it's like a microwave now. You stand in front of the microwave and you want it to hurry up. Well, that's kind of how scrolling became. And now we have a faster way of doing it. So it makes it much easier for you.
You can also write your number for the sound you like right in your book.
Correct.
That way you don't have to go back in your book to try to figure out where that sound was.
Right. Then you know what sound you're going to use. Just like you write the tempo, write the sound number if you know what you want.
Where are the number keys? How do you put it into the iPad?
Into what iPad?
Well, you don't put it in the iPad, you use the touch screen on your instrument.
I mean I'm sorry, I meant the touch screen.
There's a
How do-
button called keypad on your screen. If you just look at your
Right.
screen when you turn on the instrument, you just
Yeah,
touch
I know
keypad
that.
and touch the number. That's it.
Okay, I'll see.
Yeah, we've got some other classes that we teach it on as well. If you look through some of the other EY and EX series classes, we've actually
Okay.
talked about it quite a bit too. In
Yeah.
some other
Okay,
videos.
thank,
But we'll cover it again too.
okay.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this portion and hope you enjoyed the music as well. And I'm going to finish out with a little razzmatazz. Here we go. I just thought that was appropriate because I am 5'2" and my eyes are blue.
Blue. Very good.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to be with you. Please have a blessed day. Be well and be safe.
You too.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you for the
My
lesson.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.